Do you ever get the impression that the people curating movies for these streaming services just don't understand horror fans? Luckily, there is an app that honors the legacy of the genre, and it's $5 a month. That's like a beer. So if you're a fan of the genre and you wouldn't miss that one beer, then Shudder is essential. Does it have a catalog of the most popular and the most critically acclaimed horror movies? No, it doesn't. But it does have some of those, as well as a deep-cut catalog of favorites, including works from Dario Argento to Rob Zombie. I'm about to take the next 15 minutes telling you a little bit about some of the gems that I've discovered browsing through Shudder. It isn't a rankings video. This is just some horror movies that I enjoy that I think you should keep an eye out for. And obviously this isn't comprehensive because there are tons more movies than I could fit into one video, plus I haven't seen everything on there, so there will be some popular omissions, like Mandy. Also because I'm operating under the assumption that you've all already seen Mandy, right? Right? And movies like the Halloween franchise are off the table too. So, with all that taken into consideration and without further ado, here are 13 scary good reasons to subscribe to Shudder. Vampires and Nazis. I mean, we've had Nazis and zombies with Dead Snow and Overlord, Nazis and werewolves with Werewolves of the Third Reich. Not a recommendation, by the way. Hell, in Frankenstein's army, we even get Franken-Nazis. So vampires and Nazis was just the next logical step. Blood Vessel's the brainchild of director Justin Dix, and his less ridiculously named co-writer Jordan Prosser. Justin Dix, huh? So, quick plot breakdown. It takes place in 1945. There's a raft of stranded soldiers out at sea, and they've been there for days when they happen to come across this Nazi battleship or some shit. I'm on a boat! I don't know, I'm not a seaman. So they make their way on board the seemingly unoccupied boat, and soon after they start noticing creepy signs of the previous crew's fate, and it's definitely spelling trouble. On board is an ancient and powerful vampire master, and he's gonna kill them. That's really it, pretty much. But the vampire himself is really cool. He's got those long spindly fingers and a bat-like appearance. Sorta similar to Nosferatu, but definitely updated. It's not my favorite take on the vampire, but it gives the movie something distinct. The cast is good, and the soldiers versus monsters story is one that's admittedly appealing and usually fun to watch. It's a high-concept vampire flick with just the right amount of gore, great makeup, and camp to make for the perfect October viewing.
I have a few days' work for you if you're interested.
Doing what?
Babysitting.
Damien McCarthy's Caveat is an Irish psychological thriller with a supernatural twist that may be too low-key for some of you freaks. But if you're in the mood for something a little more atmosphere-driven and cerebral, this one could be exactly what the doctor ordered. A dude that's suffering from mild amnesia is hired to act as the caretaker for his landlord's disturbed niece. Abort, get out of there. He's taken by a fucking boat to this weathered house that's located on a remote island and introduced to this catatonic chick. Super creepy. Before he leaves, the landlord assures him again, this job's gonna be easy. Essentially, he's just house sitting. There's one caveat. He's going to have to be chained to the floor in such a way that he can roam the entire house, just short of the not actually catatonic girl's room. And as you may expect already, things go poorly. While this isn't going to make many people's favorite movies list, it's got a grimy music video aesthetic, and I found it to be the perfect counter-programming to the more conventional mainstream stuff like The Conjuring 12 or whatever. Though I will say that Wan's Malignant it's really something else.
There's something in the shed. It wants to kill me.
Are you kidding me?
You ever seen the John Hughes produced flick Career Opportunities? That dude is in this movie. In the opening of Frank Sabatella's The Shed, he's attacked by a nasty vampire that bites him just as the sun rises, which kills the vampire instantly. I really like that vampire design. Anyway, we all know what happens to someone that's bit by a vampire, and the rising sun causes this guy, who despite his recent run-in with Nosferatu is still the luckiest man on Earth, to flee for refuge inside a shed. Cut to Stan's life sucks. He and his friend Dahmer are bullied at school while he's being abused by his grandfather at home. His love life kinda sucks too, and now to make matters even fucking worse, there's a hangry vampire living in the shed in his backyard. While Stan sees this as a pretty big fucking problem, Dahmer sees it as a potential solution to their bullying problem. Jeez, and with a name like Dahmer, you'd expect him to be a little more well-adjusted. The Shed is a fun throwback that, in the end, takes influence from some of my favorite vampire flicks, including Fright Night and The Lost Boys. Yeah, it definitely has some issues, but if you like the movies I just referenced, then The Shed may be for you. Back in the 90s, New Zealand filmmaker Peter Jackson walked with bad taste and brain dead, aka Dead Alive, so that in 2015, writer-director Jason Lee Howden could run with Deathgasm. In Deathgasm, teens in a death metal band called Deathgasm play a song that summons an ancient demon and then things get metal. I'll be the first to admit that this one's gonna be very niche. I imagine the sight of corpse paint alone will be enough to send some of you running for the door, and I wouldn't blame you. I personally don't care for that scene, but that doesn't mean I'm not a little curious, and unlike listening to death metal, Deathgasm's a good time, and I just really like saying it too. Deathgasm! It's got a black metal soundtrack and reveals a lot about that subculture. It has these cool animated sequences, there's a satanic cabal, eyeless demonic entities, titties, buckets of blood, and also it's got a love for movies. Yeah, you're definitely gonna pick up on the early Peter Jackson and Sam Raimi vibes.
This cannot be ignored.
You know the old saying, when it comes to directing movies, two heads are always better than one. I mean, it worked with the Coen brothers, the Duffer brothers, and even the Soska sisters. Though maybe not with the Wayans brothers or the Wachowski sisters. Hunt was directed by Scott Beck and Brian Woods. They're not siblings, sure, and neither have two heads, but there are indeed two of them. Does dual directors work for the film Hunt? We've all heard about Blackout and Extreme Haunts by now. They've earned nearly mythic status due to the stories people hear about them and the waivers participants have to sign, as well as the secretive nature of what goes on when the experiences actually commence. Extreme Haunts are the inspiration behind this 2019 torture slasher hybrid. Outside Chicago, several university students leave a Halloween party to attend an exclusive haunted attraction, and that's where they fucked up. They assume they're the first to show up to this empty venue, which is their cue to get the fuck out, especially when the next person to show up is that guy. But if you make the smart call, the movie gets a whole lot dumber for it. So instead, they sign their lives away, and once they get inside, the group is subjected to escalating torment and soon realize that they've made a grave mistake. Haunt explores a few different well-worn genre staples in some inventive and sometimes interesting ways. Its Halloween setting alone makes it required October viewing, so check it out. Someone told me to watch One Cut of the Dead a few years back, so I put it on, and within like 15 minutes I was calling her back to ask what she was making me watch and who put her up to it. She told me to try again from the beginning. She said, "Don't turn it off, it's not what you think." Shin Ichiro, oh man, I know I'm butchering this. That, guys, One Cut of the Dead is the most subversively clever and heartwarming zombie movie you'll ever see, and it's easily my favorite film on this list. Don't let me overhype it though. It's not as if I'm listing off my favorite movies here, but this one in particular just affected me in very unexpected ways. But to say almost anything more about it would do the film a serious disservice, which makes selling people on it pretty difficult, but trust me, the less you know the better. This movie really is a must-watch, so watch it, and thank me later. Our next suggestion is another horror comedy hybrid that's imported from New Zealand. I first caught Housebound on Netflix before it found its forever home on Shudder. It's another quirky entry into the catalog of Kiwi cinema, and its brand of humor definitely feels a little less like Peter Jackson and a little more like Taika Waititi. The mum in this is the same mum from Hunt for the Wilder People, so there's some fun New Zealand actor trivia for the next time you need that. This one opens with our leading lady aggressively robbing an ATM, or trying to. which lands her punk ass on house arrest back with her mother and stepfather in a creepy old dilapidated house, which she's none too pleased about. To make matters worse, Mom tells her that the old house is haunted, which while at first she obviously doesn't believe, she slowly starts beginning to after she sees some pretty unusual shit. There's more to Housebound than you see at first glance, and while I found it to have a very satisfying conclusion, others may not. But if you're searching for something darkly comedic that defies expectation, this could be a good way to kill some time while you yourself are housebound. Movie theaters, repressed religious kids, and a haunted film that unleashes a succubus to seduce them. That's the basic premise of 2019's Porno, from director Keola Rosella. In the early 90s, 5 teens growing up in a puritanical town work in a movie theater. You can tell it's the 90s, cause Encino Man.
Buddy?
One night the co-workers stumble across this mysterious film reel, and after convincing themselves to watch it, all hell breaks loose. And by hell, I mean the seductive succubus that tempts their darkest desires. For some weird reason, Porno has middling reviews on a platform where people are generally pretty positive. I don't get it. I mean, I guess the point could be made that it's false advertising. It's not an actual porno, and in fact, there's not all that much sex in it. Aside from that, it's funny and it's charming and it has a better than average cast. Plus, one guy's dick explodes, so there's that.
Cheers.
Cheers.
What's your idea?
Scare me.
Scare Me is a scary story about the art of telling scary stories. Oh yeah, and it also features Stormfront from The Boys. Its writer-director Josh Rubin has a bright future after this and the more recent Werewolves Within. In Scare Me, he stars as a screenwriter that's gone to a secluded cabin to focus on getting some work done. No bullshit, no interruptions, just some time to get away and put some pen to paper, or text to screen. You know what I mean. Thing is, he's a fucking hack. The dude's never really completed anything, and he's not very good. Speaking of which, I've been working on this script for a while. Coincidentally, a celebrated horror author is also in the area working on her most recent novel. One dark and stormy night, the two get together for a brainstorming session, where they share ideas, and that's the movie. This is another one that I'm kind of wary about suggesting because I've done it a few times before, and the reaction has been mixed. I'll be honest, the resolution isn't quite as engaging or thrilling as I'd hoped, but it's clever and funny, and at one point Chris Redd from SNL shows up out of nowhere and just completely steals the movie. I'm curious. Check out Scare Me, and if you do, let me know what you think about it.
Hey!
Hi guys.
Hey, Caroline!
Host, not to be confused with The Host, is the horror movie of the lockdown. And I really don't mean that hyperbolically. In fact, Host would have been a massive hit if it were available in theaters and on other services. There's no question about it. In Rob Savage's found footage-ish film, a group of teens join a Zoom seance and get exactly what they asked for. It's one of those screen life movies like The Den, Unfriended, and Searching, and like those three, it's pretty good. I mean, it's not a masterpiece, but I'd argue that it is pretty ingenious. Plus, it's always inspiring to see storytellers overcome obstacles like, worldwide shutdowns. Its 56-minute runtime breezes by. Yeah, this movie's under an hour long, and a couple of the scares, they hit. So if you're looking for a found footage movie that doesn't wear out its welcome, check out Host.
Oh, hi, Mommy. Wanna play?
Have you seen the one about the imaginary friend? No. No. No, not that one. No. Nope, not that one either. Nope. Alright, look, I'm talking about 2019 Z. Z was directed by Brandon Christensen, and it's one of those creepy kid movies about a child with an evil imaginary friend that may or may not be real. In it, a young mother and her husband struggle to make sense of their 8-year-old son's recent change in behavior and preoccupation with his imaginary friend Z. By the way, I call her a young mother, but this actress is actually 49 years old. Looking good, Keegan Connor Tracy. Does the plot sound derivative of something like The Babadook? It is, I'm not gonna lie, but it's also pretty fucking effective. It might even be scarier than The Babadook. Seriously, the creep-o-meter is off the charts in this one. And I imagine that parents that watch this movie may not want to let your kids go upstairs alone again. Hell, you may not ever want to let them visit their friends again.
I'd like to welcome you aboard the 2359 service to Eastborough.
Paul Hyatt's no stranger to great UK horror. This guy previously did effects on movies with Neil Marshall like Dog Soldiers, Doomsday, and more, as well as Joe Cornish's Attack the Block. In 2015, he directed a film of his own called Howl, and he brings his previous work experience with him to create some truly unique looking monsters. But it all starts with a train attendant starting his shift for what ends up to be the graveyard shift from hell. As the train barrels through the wilderness, a full moon lights up the night sky, and soon enough the train has stopped and is taken siege by a pack of hungry werewolves. The thing I enjoy most about Howl is the unique design of the creatures. Do they look like wolves? Nah. Are they my favorite take on werewolves? Nah. But this one's crazy intimidating looking. Like, that thing looks like the love child of Melina in an urukai. Howl isn't great, and its location sort of gives everything a sameness, but when the train leaves the station and the carnage gets underway, it becomes a fun ride that never stops chugging along. And finally, anthologies are almost always more bad than good, but like the Florida weather, if you don't like it, just wait 5 minutes.
Ooh, you suck!
What? What do you mean they say that everywhere? Well, it's accurate in the case of all of the Tales anthologies. It's true in Tales from the Crypt, Tales from the Dark Side, and Tales from the Hood, and the same is true for Tales of Halloween, a low-budget mixed bag of tricks and treats. And I'm gonna be honest with you guys, this is pretty much bad. Maybe even terrible. But there are a few legit entertaining segments. Plus, it features tons of genre icons from directors to the cast members. And simply due to its honoring of the legacy, it feels like a love letter. Yeah, it's a love letter scribbled in crayon because it was written by Gilbert Grape, but it had well-meaning intentions behind it, you know? So it's kind of sweet, even if it's written by well, you know. So there are 10 segments in it, from 10 kick-ass filmmakers, and even if it seems like they each directed their segments in an hour's time, I still think there's half a dozen great bits in it, and it's dumb fun that's well worth a watch. Alright, horror heads, we've officially made it to the end of the video. Are you interested to check any of these out? If so, let me know down in the comments section. Maybe you've already seen some of them. I'd be curious to hear what you think. If you enjoyed this video, do me a favor, take a second to click the like button, and if you want to watch even more, subscribe to stay up to date with all of the videos released. Do you have suggestions for horror movies that I should check out? Let me know some of those too. Until the next time, have a happy Halloween, and be terrible.